If you listen to OPB, you'll hear us say this every hour.
At KOPB-FM Portland, KOAB-FM Bend, KRBM-FM Pendleton, KOBK-FM Baker City, KTVR-FM LeGrand, KOGL-FM Glen Eden Beach, KOAP-FM Lakeview, KTMK-FM Tillamook, KOTD-FM The Dalles, KOBN-FM Burns, KOPB-AM Eugene, KOAC-AM Corvallis, KOAC-FM Astoria, KHRV-FM Hood River, KETP-FM Enterprise, KOJD-FM John Day.
Before this podcast existed, I used to be a radio announcer at OPB. And when I first started out, I was a little worried I'd never be able to memorize the long jumble of letters and places that make up our legal ID. But I was taught a trick. Don't just ramble through it like some meaningless script. Take a moment and picture each place in your mind as you say them. Try to let the good people of Enterprise know that you're thinking of them, nestled in the beautiful Wallowa Mountains when you say KETP-FM Enterprise. And you know what? It works. Honestly, I miss it a little, the sense of place I got from this small daily ritual. Well, our Weekend Edition host, Lillian Kerbake, does this all the time, too. And recently, she decided to take that journey one step further. She went on a road trip to all of those places in one trip by bus.
It's absolutely the hands down best place to get the best gossip. Like everybody on the bus 100% knows what's going on, what's going down.
Especially this bus, we are like family.
Joining her was OPB video producer Prakruti Bhatt. And today, you. From the Gert Boyle studio, I'm Jen Chavez, and this is The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB about the place you call home. Today, we're going to hand the show over to Lillian to tell us about her 14-day journey by public transit. You'll learn about some of the difficulties of rural transit and meet some of the delightful riders.
Okay, everybody got seatbelts?
Yep.
Okay, here we go.
It's Stop Requested. On the first day of our journey, we start in the Dalles. It's not even 8 a.m. and the bus was already running late.
Are you guys heading to Hood River?
Yeah.
That's where I'm heading right now, so.
Perfect. Our driver was Fred Berggren, who's been driving for the Link for almost 9 years. A new driver just started who's also called Fred, and it's creating some confusion on the dispatch radio as we get in.
Are you talking to me?
I'm Fred B.
I might have to change my name to Chad. I told him to not call me the old Fred anymore.
Instead of Old Fred, we suggest OG Fred or Seasoned Fred. Seasoned Fred drives us to the Columbia Gorge Express Cat Bus, which is already waiting at the Hood River Transit Center. That will make a brief stop at Multnomah Falls and then to Gateway Transit Center in East Portland. We'll then catch the light rail to Union Station, where we'll catch the bus to Astoria, where we'll have just half an hour before we're set to grab the Pacific Connector, the weekend bus from Astoria to Cannon Beach. There's a heavy, misty rain covering everything in Astoria as we wait in their quaint transit center. Clatsop County's transit agency, Sunset Empire Transit District, stopped service entirely for a month last year after a financial shortfall. When they returned, they brought back fewer routes. But they still have a committed group of regular riders, including James.
I used to ride the bus exclusively for a bunch of years, and I really got to meet a lot of my neighbors, people I wouldn't had really great conversations with. So for me, it was kind of like just a huge spiritual experience, getting to really get outside myself and chat with people. I live by myself, so I really liked that sense of community, and it's absolutely the hands down best place to get the best gossip. Like everybody on the bus 100% knows what's going on, what's going down.
The rain intensified as we head down Highway 101 until it seems like we're nearly inside of a cloud. A hiker visiting from Colorado flags down the bus saying they're just happy to be somewhere dry. All along the Oregon coast, bus service is less frequent than it was before COVID. We have to race to get down to Lincoln City because Tillamook County Transit District ended Sunday service at the beginning of the summer because they didn't have enough drivers. Our driver, James, has been driving for about a year. He handled the bus around the highway's curves and through the fog with ease. He knew each of the riders' schedules and workplaces. The regulars form a little community in and of themselves. Cooper Martin rides the bus every weekend in Lincoln County to work in South Beach. Martin says the bus has made him feel more connected to the community after moving from Florida in January.
So I pretty much traveled almost this entire bus line, and it's very nice. You can get anywhere on the coast, but some people kind of get persuaded away from that because they're like, oh, they kind of see people, maybe at their lowest they've ever been, but you kind of get a big bite of all of society. It's just a little snapshot of all the people in the town.
But Martin is moving inland to Corvallis after his seasonal ranger work is wrapped, partially because the bus schedules are better there.
So that kind of means more convenient times, because when I get off work, I have to wait an hour for the bus to come back home, and that eats up a lot of my time.
Our next ride pulls up to the Safeway in Lincoln City at 6:45 a.m. the following morning. It's headed to Newport, where we plan to catch the Coast Valley Express. The bus winds through Eddyville, Corvallis, and ends in North Albany. For the moment, it's the only public transit between Tillamook and Florence that heads inland from the coast. The 60X route that ran from Lincoln City to Salem was discontinued after the driver retired. One of our Lincoln County riders is disappointed it's ended.
We waited for years to get going. When it finally came, it was here, and it didn't last too long.
He thinks the route was good for folks that have vacation homes on the coast.
I have a lot of people that we know in Salem that have units here, and they are too old to drive anymore, and they're probably going to have to sell their place.
Luckily for them, the route has since resumed, operated by the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. Eventually, we arrive at Newport City Hall and wait for our next bus. There's a strong smell of fish in Newport. One of our fellow riders says it smells like money. It's a contrast to Tillamook's aroma of cow yesterday, although I guess both are the olfactory result of the local economy. The bus comes, and for $6, we snag a ride into Albany. One of the riders is Depot Bay resident Kathy Gunderson, who's hauling a chunky suitcase. She's going to Albany Amtrak station like we were. About 3 years ago, Gunderson started riding the bus to visit her adult daughters in Eugene.
Do the bus from Florence to Eugene and back for like $6 a ride.
Gunderson said it's cheaper than driving, but the big thing for her is that it's less stress.
126 is kind of scary because the curves and this and that. And everybody wants to go fast, and I'm getting older now, and I don't want to go fast. So it was very relaxing riding it, mostly.
Eventually, she gave up her car and switched entirely to the bus when she retired. She said eventually she might get a car again, but for now, she likes not having the car payment or the stress.
And I live in a little studio, and it doesn't have a washer and dryer, so I have to go to town, either Lincoln City to my north or Newport to the south. And so I go like once a week to town, like the old stagecoach days, to get my staples. I go to the grocery store, do the library, do my clothes, and go see the sea lions and just the ocean and whatever. And I got hooked on it, and I've become friends with the bus drivers.
After a day killing time in Albany, we board the Amtrak, which runs only a little late, and head south to Klamath Falls. Why go to Klamath Falls? Because it's the only way to get into Lakeview by public transit. A town of about 2,500 people, Lakeview is known as Oregon's Mile High City, and it isn't close to much of anything.
Yeah, Lakeview, you'll be surprised. It's in the middle of nowhere.
But they do have a transit system, the Lake County Cloud, operated by the Lakeview Senior Center. It doesn't have any fixed route services, instead is mostly driving people to medical appointments by reservation. They do a lot of miles, going all the way up to Medford, down to California, and even all the way to Portland for chemotherapy.
We do about 30,000, 40,000 miles a month. It's a lot for a little town and a little crew.
That's Linda Mickle, transportation coordinator for the Lake County Cloud. So that's how we found ourselves wandering through a strip mall parking lot after a short hop on Basin Transit Service. Tucked behind a furniture store and a Taco Bell is a 1,200 square foot warehouse filled with pallets of food.
We distribute 2.5 million pounds of food a year.
It's the distribution center for Klamath Lake County's food bank. It's also our bus stop. Some of that food goes to Lakeview Senior Center for their hot meal service. Operations manager Courtney Nichols said the need for food assistance is growing.
We're really seeing a huge jump in the need for our communities, especially Lake County.
This is especially true as it gets harder to make paychecks stretch. Nichols says there's no one type of client.
Seniors versus families, single moms, it's everybody. Everybody has hit the markets where, I need a little help.
They supply about 5,000 pounds of food to Lake County each month.
What's the thing that flies off the shelves?
Top ramen.
Top ramen. Interesting.
Top ramen. You can actually do a lot with top ramen, more than people think that they can.
So what's her favorite top ramen recipe?
My husband loves to take the top ramen and fry up Spam and then add egg to it. And it's his little stir fry.
Yeah, the egg itself right now will make it like double the price,
Yes.
right?
As we swap ramen tips, a bright blue 14-passenger bus decorated with pictures of clouds and parasailers backs into the warehouse.
Here's Lake County. Here's your bus. There's your bus.
Love it.
Our driver is Larry Brooks. Larry has been driving for Lake County for about 7 years.
I took a guy to Medford to the dentist yesterday, but we go to Portland once in a while, and I get over to Baker, Pendleton, Ontario, but most of our runs are Klamath Falls, Medford, and Bend.
I asked what his longest day driving the bus was.
23 and a half hours. Drove to Portland, and the lady had 5 doctor appointments. Left at 2:30 in the morning and got back at 2 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What makes it worth it? Why put in these long days when he's retired?
Helping the people. There's a lot of people here that need the service. It's a great service.
It's my favorite part, watching the guys on the forklifts doing the loading. They have it down to a science.
The bus is loaded up with a pallet of food quickly, and then we get on board. Brooks warns us that he hit a turkey vulture on the way in, but the bus doesn't seem any worse for wear. After 2 hours of driving over a mountain pass, past some cows, we pull up to Lakeview Senior Center, a more than 100-year-old hospital off Lakeview's main drag. We walk the few blocks that makes up Lakeview's downtown, which is charming with a Wild West vibe. A pudgy kitty walks up to us, right out from a house with a sign on it that says Animal House. The cat's name is Judge Judy.
She checks everybody and everything in and out of the rescue. It can be the meanest dog or the sweetest old lady out front. She's going to go up and get in their business.
Judge Judy works for Animal House, which is Rhonda Dial's fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants animal rescue run out of her house. Like everything else in this very rural area, it's a creative solution to the lack of resources. The only rescue for 100 miles, Dial says it was divine intervention that led to her starting Animal House as she lost her 29-year-old daughter to addiction.
And when I was losing my daughter, when we were disconnecting her, I'm in the hospital, saying farewell to my daughter, and God says, well, you're going to have an animal rescue. And I started to argue, and then I remembered who I was arguing with. And then I'm standing out front of the house one day after giving over half of it to the animals, and I'm like, this isn't even my house anymore. This is the animals' house. Animal House.
In addition to the animal shelter, Dial also helps organize a free meal program on holidays.
I used to use drugs and be an idiot for 30 full years. I went to prison behind it, and then I got connected with Jesus Christ and changed my life, and this is what came of it. If you're getting really involved in your community in a bad way, doing bad things, when you turn it around, you need to be just as involved with your community for the good.
And Dial thinks Lakeview is the community to be in.
Just Lakeview's a really nice place. There's mountains and streams and stuff. I just think it's a wonderful place on the planet. They couldn't run me off.
Unfortunately, we do get run off because early the next morning, we're headed to North Lake County, which is even less populated than the southern part of the county. With fewer than one person per square mile, it's truly the outback. Early in the morning, we're picked up by bus driver and photographer Joshua Lee in a little Lake County Transit 4-seater vehicle. It's a hybrid, which isn't the most practical in Lake County, where the electrical grid is inconsistent and the weather can be extreme. But it gets better mileage than the big buses for long trips like this with only 1 or 2 passengers. Lee is one of 8 drivers that works for Lake County Transit and enjoys driving for the extra income and the desert photography opportunities. He drives us the 101 miles from Lakeview to Christmas Valley's downtown.
Right there.
At 8:20 a.m., we pulled up in a gravel parking lot behind a white 14-passenger bus. It had a fading sticker on the side featuring the silhouette of a cowboy in front of a blue sky. It reads, Lake County Public Transit, provided by Lake County Senior Citizens Association. We board the Christmas Valley Shopper Service, which leaves most Wednesdays at 8:30 a.m. from Christmas Valley into La Pine, as long as 3 people sign up to ride.
Do you ever have like one person that wants to go and they have to recruit 2 others to come?
Oh, that's happened. or I might make a few phone calls and twist a few arms too.
It's been driven by Silver Lake resident Debbie Warren for 16 years. Warren is a retired school bus driver, but she wasn't ready to give up driving entirely and hangs on to this weekly shopping trip.
It's changed from kids to seniors. Yeah. We have fun. We get loud and rowdy sometimes.
As soon as we climb on the bus, we're greeted by the regulars who are excited to have some young people on board. Someone jokingly called it the senior party bus.
Hello from the Outback.
There's 8 riders on board, and they all know one another. Rider Bobby Nicolaitis said Christmas Valley is close-knit.
Especially this bus. We are like family. It's a great group of people.
Nicolaitis moved to the area to live off-grid several years ago. She recently got a propane fridge and is excited about it, but has been waiting for weeks for the gas utility to come out for it to be hooked up. Today she's going into La Pine for a blood draw and some shopping at the thrift store. Nicolaitis loves where she lives, but there's downsides to being so remote. There's just a small local grocery store, 1 bank, 1 gas station, and very few medical services. Driver Debbie Warren, who lives in Silver Lake a few miles from Christmas Valley, agrees.
North County is a good place to live. I've lived there 28 years, and there are drawbacks, because major shopping is a long ways away. Doctor's appointments are a long ways away, but there's peace and quiet. You can see the antelope play,
The remoteness can make it challenging, especially as people age and driving on icy mountain passes becomes more difficult. We ride 60 miles through the high desert to La Pine. Our first stop in town is a quick potty break at the store because, as of a couple months ago, there's no public restrooms between Christmas Valley and La Pine.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Are you going in?
Yeah, I'm going in.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just going to walk over to St. Vinny's.
It's a subject of much discussion on the bus. Next, we drop Bobby Nicolaitis at the medical lab because she's been fasting all morning. We'll pick her back up after her important post-blood draw cookie. There's no set route. Warren figures it out on the fly based on a handwritten list of everyone's errands. It's pretty impressive to watch her pivot. Even the day of the week for the bus can change if needed.
Occasionally, if they need the bus for medical to go to Bend, we'll change it to Thursday. But the best day to pick up a food box is on Wednesdays because they get their shipment on Tuesday afternoons.
Occasionally, they might stop at a doctor's appointment, but it's mainly shopping errands because groceries are so much cheaper in La Pine than Christmas Valley or Silver Lake.
This trip is based on shopping, so it's Bi-Mart and the drugstores, the hardware store.
After a few hours of riding around with the bus, Warren leaves us off at a bus stop in downtown La Pine.
This has been the funnest bus we've been
on. Oh, good. I'm glad.
After the senior party bus, we catch a bus run by Cascade East Transit, which serves Bend and the surrounding areas. It's our link between one of the most remote areas in Oregon to one of the fastest growing in the state. But we won't stay urban long. Bend is a short stop before we have to solve the puzzle of getting to Baker City by public transit. It turns out it's not exactly legit. It's easy to get from Bend to Ontario. There's a daily state-subsidized point bus that stops at 11 communities. But once we go from Ontario, we have to figure out how to get into Baker City. When we took this trip last year, Flixbus, the company that acquired Greyhound in 2021, ran from Ontario to La Grande on its way to Portland. Right in the middle of Ontario and La Grande is Baker City. There's no way to not go through it. But a few months before our trip was scheduled to leave, Baker City disappeared off the list of Flixbus destinations. Meanwhile, Grant County People Mover discontinued their once-a-month bus between Baker City and La Grande due to driver shortage and low ridership. We started to panic. How are we going to get to Baker City?
At least for Baker City in particular, we now have very, very limited public transit options.
That's Baker City resident and transit enthusiast Matt Kraybacher. If we could just figure out how to get to Baker City, he'll meet us at the bus station. Through a complicated series of phone calls, we found out we could just get off the Greyhound bus in Baker City and not get back on. Our bus driver reluctantly confirmed that.
an unofficial stop. You know, when people say, hey, can I get off here? I'm like, well, you know, you're over 18, you're an adult. I can't force you back on the bus.
Okay. And when we do get to the truck stop in Baker City where our bus driver takes a vape break, we do just that.
All right, guys, this is Baker. This is an unscheduled stop.
Get off the bus.
Don't be worried if we don't get back on.
Okay.
Matt Kraybacher meets us after we sneak off. He's trying to fix the bad transit options to Baker City. He's part of a group trying to restore the old Amtrak Pioneer route that ran from Denver through eastern Oregon, including Baker City. It stopped running in 1997. He's all in on trains because driving here, especially in the winter, can be difficult.
There's 2 passes to the north of us that close regularly in winter due to inclement weather, and one valley to the south of us towards Ontario that closes. So in wintertime, you can get stuck here.
The local bus run by Community Connection of Northeast Oregon only runs weekdays, which meant that we had 2 days in Baker City before we could head to our next stop, LeGrand. So we decided to spend our Saturday evening at an event you wouldn't find anywhere else in the world, an art auction of already licked salt licks? Yes, the kind that cows lick.
Well, here we are once again, and doesn't it seem funny? We'll have some drinks and share some laughs and auction salt licks for money.
Baker City local Whit Deschner got the idea for an event when he looked at a salt lick sideways and thought, doesn't that kind of look like a sculpture? Now, for almost 20 years, ranchers have donated salt licks from their livestock to be auctioned off at the Great Salt Lick to raise money for Parkinson's research at OHSU. There's even a giant salt lick sculpture in Baker City's downtown, not made from real salt.
They'd lick the hell out of it and not get any satisfaction.
This is the first year that Baker City Lions Club is running the event, taking over from Deschner, whose own Parkinson's is making it harder for him to MC. Mo from the Lions Club said the event is beloved.
It's really about just bringing the community together because, you know, there's ranchers and artists and it's kind of a mixed community, and to get them all to come together for one thing.
Susan and Irv Townsend are ready to add to their collection of salt licks.
We have several of the blocks at home. In fact, we've resold them, you know, instead of we just run them through. We'll buy them and then put them up for auction again.
Once everyone has picked their favorite, it's time for the auction. Hundreds of people whoop and cheer as salt licks are paraded down the aisle and drop hundreds or even thousands of dollars.
Number 50, number 75, number 75, now 2. Now 2, 200 and a quarter, number 25, 220. It's easy. Just put it in your pocket and take it with you.
One of the volunteers at the event is Baker County Sheriff Travis Ash, holding salt licks out of uniform.
Another salt lick right here next year, same time, same place, so everybody be here.
Word spreads at the event in a way that it only can in a small town. When the sheriff hears we need a ride to the bus stop on Monday morning, he asks what the definition of public transit is. And that's how, at 6 a.m. on Monday morning, we ended up in the back of a brand new Baker County patrol car. Well, it is publicly funded, but showing up in the patrol car did make our bus driver a little nervous.
Follow you.
I want them on the bus.
We may follow you to the county line.
We tend not to discriminate.
As hard as it was for us to get into Baker City, it would be even harder now. At the beginning of the year, Greyhound announced they're canceling their Eastern Oregon intercity bus service on the I-84 corridor between Pasco, Washington, and Boise, Idaho. Stops affected include Ontario, Baker City, LeGrand, and Pendleton. Oregon Department of Transportation says they're working with local partners to identify potential solutions. But for now, there's no way into Baker City.
Coming up after a break, we'll find out if Lillian and Prakruti managed to catch every bus they need in one long 12-hour day of public transit to allow them to come home. Hey y'all, guess what? We're going to be doing a live taping of The Evergreen. It's happening Thursday, March 6th at the Tomorrow Theater in Southeast Portland. Come join the audience and hang out with us in real life. You can find more details at opb.org/theevergreen. Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, our podcast from OPB about the place you call home. If you dig what you hear, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, and we will brighten your Monday morning a little bit with something new and exciting to listen to each week. You can also follow OPB on Instagram at OPB Photo, where you can find a lot of cool short videos from the Stop Requested series and learn more about what Team Evergreen and all our OPB friends are up to. And remember, this episode about rural transit and all the great OPB reporting and storytelling you hear on this show is made possible by the support of many thousands of OPB members. That is the beauty of public media, my friends. Support our journalism by becoming an OPB sustaining member today at opb.org/pod. And now, back to Stop Requested.
The bus ride into LeGrand was uneventful. Then we had most of the day to wait before our next bus to Wallowa County. LeGrand Transit Hub has a lot going on. It's run by Community Connection of Northeast Oregon, a 4-county nonprofit organization that has many services: public transit, hot meals, financial assistance for seniors, bingo, and more. They're the only transit operator on this entire trip that has enough drivers. That's according to their transportation manager, Patrick Heeman. In addition to the connector shuttles across Union, Baker, and Wallowa County, they also run a Monday through Saturday bus through town.
We have 2 buses that go around the city. This is one of them. It's on a deviated fixed route. They both leave every 45 minutes.
They will pick you up anywhere within 3/4 of a mile of the route, as long as you call them 24 hours in advance.
And they basically hit every grocery store, medical place, low income, housing, the whole cities.
Our next bus is actually an 8-passenger van, also run by Community Connection, from LeGrand through Elgin, Imbler, and Enterprise and Joseph on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. We climbed in along with 2 regulars headed to Elgin who let us have our choice of seats.
Seatbelts located right here.
Our driver, David Height, loves to tease riders. He's a youth pastor in addition to a bus driver. After Elgin, the conversation switches to Sasquatch, a passion of his. Height said he's willing to lose his job over Bigfoot.
If I see a Bigfoot in the canyon, for example, whether I have riders or not, I'm going to pull over in a safe spot and give foot pursuit. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
We make it to Enterprise Transit Hub without any Sasquatch sightings and catch the very last summer shuttle bus of the day, which goes all the way to Wallowa Lake and Joseph. According to our driver, it's filled with tourists during the summer season.
Meet a lot of different people out here, I tell you. Like, well, this summer from up at the lake, I had a family from England on here and a family from Germany.
But many of the locals don't know the free service exists.
It's amazing as much as we do have it out there, there's still people that don't know. But it's really a good service for such a small county.
At Wallowa Lake, my coworker Prakruti Bhatt jumps in the freezing cold but perfectly clear glacier water. If only locals knew they could take a free bus here. Sadly, we have to head out early the next morning to catch the bus, to another bus, to another bus to get to our final stop. It's going to be a long travel day, about 12 hours. If we miss the bus in Pendleton, we're out of luck. The bus to our very last destination, John Day, only runs once a week. So the next morning, we get back in the Wallowa Link, which runs 3 days a week. We're driven by Height again and have 2 new regular riders. Joseph resident Lisa Murphy says she uses the Wallowa Link for errands into LeGrand because it's cheaper than gas in her own car.
If we want to go like a big shopping, we do it in LeGrand because we have the most expensive Safeway in the state.
Plus, she isn't used to driving in the snow since she moved here from San Diego 6 years ago and prefers having the bus drivers do it.
Like that, we have great bus drivers. I feel that they are better equipped to drive in those circumstances because there's ice and snow.
Fellow passenger Stephen Rogers has been riding this bus a long time because it's a lot more affordable than driving the 120 miles.
Even 10, 15 years ago, you started looking at the gas prices going up. This was the way to go for $10 round trip.
$10?
Yeah, still $10. Never went up. And I've asked the last 2 managers, why has it never gone up? And they were paid for by grants. And thank the Lord for grants.
Most of these grants are actually the Oregon Department of Transportation's statewide Transportation Improvement Fund, a unique Oregon tax passed by the legislature in 2017, which helps pay for transit where federal funding isn't enough. Almost every bus we've taken on this trip receives funding from this pool. Rogers, like Murphy, takes the bus for errands.
If you've been in Wallowa County, we don't have a lot of shopping activities, so people come over here to hit the Walmart, the Buy Mart, and then a lot of the doctor's office, all your specialty offices are over here.
Rogers is a veteran, and there's a veterans outpatient clinic in LeGrand. But for more complicated medical care, he'll travel to Walla Walla or Boise. Community Connection sometimes drives him as part of his veterans benefits. They can even do overnights. Rogers is all in on transit, and unlike other locals, he knew about the summer shuttle.
Well, now in the summer, they actually run the shuttle for free from Enterprise to Wallowa Lake, where you ride all over this place and it doesn't cost you a thing. And so I don't think they can improve on that one.
Back at the LeGrand Transit Hub, we have about an hour before we can catch the Kayak El Arrow, which runs to Pendleton. The Kayak is a free and open to the public transit system operated by the Confederated Tribes of Umatilla Indian Reservation. It comes right on time, thankfully. There's only one other passenger on board for most of the ride to Pendleton, frequent rider Nathan Forsyth. He rides kayak buses to get out to nature and his interest in historic schoolhouses.
And go link with like the Whistler that goes to Walla Walla or the Hopper to Hermiston. I put my bike on the rack just to go look at historic schoolhouses.
His favorite schoolhouse?
The Shanghai Schoolhouse, that's over by Cove.
He was riding the bus into Pendleton to celebrate his 44th birthday with a bike ride and a meal.
Just go eat at one of my favorite restaurants in Pendleton.
Once we arrive in Pendleton and wish Forsyth a happy birthday, we had just enough time between buses for lunch with our coworker, Antonio Sierra, who is our Eastern Oregon bureau reporter. Then we race across the Walmart parking lot from one bus stop to another as we see the Grant County People Mover bus on the other end. But we didn't need to run. The bus driver knows we're coming.
Thanks to me, you got your afternoon workout.
Yep.
You don't have to go to the gym or anything.
It's driven by Douglas Boyer, who is 77 years young. He's been driving for Grant County People Mover, a small transit agency, for 15 years. After he moved to Grant County, when falling in love with it while accidentally driving through on their way to Scotts Valley, California, with his late wife. He started driving for People Mover a month after he moved to Grant County. He already had his commercial driver's license from driving semis and school buses. Boyer has worn many hats, but one stands out.
Buffalo Rider.
Wait, so you just followed up the phrase, I haven't had a very exciting life, with the phrase, I was the buffalo riding champion.
My 10 minutes of fame.
He doesn't ride buffalo anymore, but he does have 3 horses of his own he keeps on a neighbor's property in Prairie City. He tries to drive buses only 2 or 3 days a week, so he has plenty of time for riding and playing music with the Old Time Fiddlers Association in John Day. Continuing our trend of needing to travel for cheaper groceries, that's one of the big challenges for Grant County as well. Boyer says he gets most of his groceries during his runs down to Burns. Our 3-hour journey is free on the way in because it starts in Umatilla County. But to take the thrice weekly bus from Bend to John Day tomorrow, we'll have to pay. It's free to enter John Day, but not to leave. Right before we cross into Grant County, we make our last pit stop before John Day. It's the post office / hunting shop / general store in the extremely small community of Dale, Oregon. Population, less than 30 people. I'm greeted by a giant taxidermied bear and the shopkeepers who know Boyer well. One gives my coworker Prakriti Bhatt a local postcard to send.
I'm going to give you that postcard. You keep that. You keep it. Yes. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you found Dale. You know?
After Bhatt gets the rare Dale, Oregon postmark, we get back in the bus and arrive in John Day at sunset. And with that, we arrived in the final of our 16 destinations, KOJD FM John Day. Over 14 days, we rode 38 buses, 3 trains, and 1 patrol car run by 22 different transit agencies to travel 2,060.2 miles across Oregon. A few common themes emerged. Groceries are expensive everywhere, but even more so in smaller and more remote areas. Transit matters not just to folks that can't drive, but anyone who wants to save money on gas or avoid driving during extreme weather. Healthcare deserts are bad and getting worse in rural areas. Medical transport provides a vital link. And perhaps most important,
It's absolutely the hands down best place to get the best gossip. Like, everybody on the bus 100% knows what's going on, what's going down.
Thanks for joining me on this ride.
You can see videos and read full coverage of Stop Requested at opb.org/stoprequested. And if today's episode has left you wanting to learn more about rural transit in Oregon, you are in luck. Lillian will be hosting a Stop Requested live event in Portland in May that'll take a deep dive into the state of Oregon's rural public transit systems. Registration opens soon, and you can find more details about it in our show notes. Thank you for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB. Join us next week for a story about the quietest place in Oregon. We promise it's not just a silent podcast. Our technical director is Stephen Cray. The OPB podcast team includes Mia Estrada, Julie Sabatier, Sage Van Wing, and me. Lillian Kerbake and Prakruti Bhatt did the interviews you heard. The music in this episode is from Audio Network. And hey, if you have a question for us, always feel free to reach out. You can email us at theevergreen@opb.org. I'm Jen Chavez. Catch you later.
And now, 38 buses in the making.
KOPB FM Portland.
KOAB FM Bend. KRBM FM Pendleton.
KOPK FM Baker City.
KTVR FM LeGrand.
KOGL FM Glen Eden Beach.
KOAP FM Lakeview.
KTMK FM Tillamook.
KOBN FM Burns. KOPD AM Eugene.
KOAC FM Corvallis.
We're in KOAC FM Astoria.
We're in KHRV FM Hood River.
KETB FM Enterprise. KOJB FM John Day.